Tucker Carlson had Seneca Scott on his program, a cousin of Coretta Scott King, on Martin Luther King Day. And I just think that it's interesting that Tucker Carlson wanted to platform what is said here. And frankly, I see this as yet another ahistorical effort by nefarious actors like Tucker Carlson trying to use existing and righteous skepticism of the government for things that they may or may not have done as a way to build one's narrative and twist history in favor of far-right ideology.
And the context is apparently this new statue was erected in Boston that Tucker refers to as looking pornographic.
Right,
it's a
yeah.
set of hands.
Yeah, it's a weird statue. I don't particularly care about that part, but I do care about what is said here.
It is outrage members of Coretta Scott King's family. Understandably, if you've seen the statue, it's pornographic. Seneca Scott is a cousin of Coretta Scott King. He's called this monument a, quote, masturbatory metal homage in a new piece in Compact magazine. Seneca Scott's a union leader and founder of Neighbors Together Oakland, and joins us tonight. Mr. Scott, thank you so much for coming on. So what do you tell us about this? I think a lot of people are kind of confused by it. It seems ugly at best, pornographic at worst. What do you think this is about?
You know, I think this is the product of the woke algorithm that has gone awry. It's like the child who, and the emperor who has no clothes, who had to have the nerve to shout out that the emperor was naked before his court were willing to follow in suit. And I think that's what's happened now that, you know, things have gone viral, and it's pretty much the consensus that this statue is a monstrosity and an insult to the family. I would like to say that, first off, it's important to acknowledge that it is Martin Luther King Day, and nothing should detract from his radical vision, Tucker. And he was assassinated by the U.S. government. You've talked about JFK's assassination recently. This was in the same period. And he was assassinated right when he was escalating from talking about racial bigotry to class and in the war in Vietnam.
I noticed.
And my cousin picked up that mantle and proudly, and I'm a very proud member of the Scott family. So I was rather upset to see that statue, to be honest with you.
Well, you make a good point that no one ever says out loud, but he had shifted to populist economics. I have no idea who killed Martin Luther King, but it's very obvious it was not James Earl Ray acting alone. He had 2 foreign passports. He was escaped from prison. The whole thing is ridiculous. Why is there no interest in that question?
Well, I think that it's a big moment, and there's a lot of pressure when you spend $10 million on something, and people are expected to follow.
Okay, all right, pause it for a sec. So
this is the biggest.
The consistent, like, shoehorning of the statue back into the conversation is awkward at best. But I want to just, like, remove the statue from the equation. I could not give less of a shit. The interesting thing there to me is, one, I had not remembered, Matt, that JFK's assassination has been covered on Tucker Carlson's program.
I mean, the recent shit he's nodded toward it.
Yes. Okay. But
yeah, sorry, just on that note,
like
Tucker Carlson, we talked about this with Robert Skvarla, started his career. Again, Tucker Carlson, whose dad was the Voice of America. Tucker Carlson himself wanted to be in the CIA and took weird vacations to Nicaragua early in his life. Started his media career saying Gary Webb is lying about all that stuff about CIA implications and drug running. So Tucker is like what this is a controlled hangout.
Yes.
What's going on here with regards to the assassination stuff.
That's why I think it's just so key to call it out, because one, you know, he then also says that Martin Luther King was switching to, quote, populist economics. What's he trying to do there, right? The right has claimed populism, and that's the branding that's been associated with the Bannonites like Bolsonaro or Trump or Orban, all of which Tucker Carlson has been openly supportive of. And so he's trying to use Martin Luther King's legacy to give credibility to the brand of conservative that he is hitching his wagon to. That's what he's doing there. While at the same time nodding to justified skepticism about the assassination of Martin Luther King. I mean, what Tucker Carlson said there about the passports and stuff is true. I just think it's really important that the left call it out aggressively, because ahistoricism is a hallmark of Republicans and what they try to do, because without it, they're unable to sell their vision to the public. And Tucker's more adept at that, honestly, than anybody.
Right.
And this is a particularly perverse example of it, because everything Tucker Carlson supports, the FBI and the CIA at the time, and law enforcement, which is implicated in Malcolm X's death, Fred Hampton, all of these civil rights leaders that they targeted, it's in lockstep with what Tucker Carlson believes in. And so, but he's trying to change, he's trying to manipulate that decades later.
Why were we in Vietnam that MLK turned against? Like, why were we there in the first place?
Yeah.
Was imperial anti-communism.
And what was the populist? What were the populist economics that MLK was supportive of? It was expansion. It was
wealth redistribution.
Wealth redistribution and universal health care programs.
Why was MLK in Memphis?
I have a dream that we will turn our focus to the real threat, which is China. Nobody's keeping an eye on China. Yeah, like that's what Tucker.
But also, why was MLK in Memphis when he was assassinated? Because he was speaking for labor power.
Yep.
He was speaking in support of a sanitation worker strike in Memphis.
Yeah.
Like, this is another way to whitewash MLK's legacy by Tucker kind of alluding to this shit without actually saying any of it.
Yep. Exactly. I thought we'd run out of ways to whitewash his legacy, but here we go.
It was just the content of your character quote over and over, spam.
He was just about love, right? Here's a quote in cursive that you can post on your Instagram story, wine mom. But guys, weigh in.
Don't speak to Kathy Hochul like that.
Hey, whoa.
Kathy Hochul, sorry, I had to take that cheap shot because she literally says, she referenced the I Have a Dream speech saying, I have a dream that judges won't be judged by 2 to 5 cases.
Yes, that was when she was speaking at a majority black church and kicked out an activist with a police escort, quoting MLK and equating him with her judicial pick.
I have a dream.
Judge you by what you said.
That we judge people on the content of what they can provide for me electorally, not on their judicial record.
I think it just shows not how little, but how divorced from history our population is. We just have such a bad grasp of even the recent history in America because of the way it's taught. And, with the Stop Woke Acts going around the country, it's going to be even easier to whitewash MLK's legacy. They'll have him, pushing Donald Trump 2024 soon. MLK would have been a Trump voter. And I think
MAGA MLK. What does the M stand for, baby?
I think, it's easy to just be it's pandering, and it definitely is pandering. Tucker Carlson knows his audience. He knows what they want to hear and what they will believe. But I honestly think it really shows how low of an opinion that a lot of right-wingers, a lot of politicians have about the American populace, to be oh, yeah, no, you can just say anything about MLK. One of the only historical figures Americans know anything about. You can say anything about him. People oh, yeah, he loved that. He loved Pepsi Cola and fried chicken. That was his favorite, that's why he's in that KFC ad or something. It's just, it's not we're not a very learned people. And so it's very easy to make things up about historical figures that sound good.
Yeah. MLK didn't see color except for MAGA red. That's the only color he cared about.
All right. Yeah, I mean, the smile, the giddiness on Tucker Carlson's face when he was able to turn this into oh yeah, MLK was really all about economic populism at the end. But, to Tucker Carlson, that means something people like the Jimmy Dores of the world teaming up with the Boogaloo Boys to attack any sort of vaccination requirements at the workplace or any sort of safety measures like that. That's what economic populism is to them. Those sorts of things. And I had to look up the Kathy Hochul quote because it is actually even more amazing than I think you remember, Matt. I got to read it. It's very short.
Please read it.
Hochul says, when he was gunned, talking about MLK, when he was gunned down, assassinated, my family sat there and held hands and wept. How could this be? How could this man of God who taught us about nonviolence and social justice and change and not judging people by the color of their skin or 1 or 2 cases out of 5,000 cases decided?
You mean their actions. They're actions.
It's so brazen. It's like it's a throwaway line when you're talking about Martin Luther King.
I didn't realize that being
it's not even like, oh, in his dream speech, it was in the context of us experiencing his assassination.
Yeah. Apparently what you do in your elected office or in your judgeship is an immutable characteristic akin to your skin color.
I mean, so people react to that in different ways. Hochul's talking about, I mean, if you look at like RFK's reaction to MLK and like the speech he gives, it's like one of the most amazing sort of impromptu rhetorical performances in American political history. And some people are like, well, maybe I can use this to ram a judge through in 60 years.
It's just amazing what people can project onto like Martin Luther King Jr., considering how like specific his message was. It just becomes a vehicle for like, liberal pathology of like, well, you don't want to judge anybody too harshly, even on their actions, because MLK is famously never told you to judge anyone based on their actions. He never wrote letters about white moderates or their inactions or actions and how they fall into the like sort of the culture of hate that we have. He only once said a single line about people not being judged by the color of their skin. That's it.
Did you guys see Elvis, the movie, the recent Elvis movie?
I did not.
Did you see it, Bender?
I did.
Okay, so this just reminded me because RFK's speech about MLK is featured in the movie, and this speaks to like just the broad revisionism behind all of this stuff when it comes to MLK, that it's just so easy that he's essentially an avatar for anything you want to graph onto him now. Throughout the movie, all of these like specific historical deaths occur, and like, you see Elvis's reaction to them when he's watching on TV. And the only thing that Austin Butler's Elvis says when he looks at the TV when MLK, it's announced that MLK is assassinated, and he's watching RFK's speech, he goes, "That guy always told the truth."
Oh, kill me. I'm so glad I didn't see that movie. And I will say, I mean, there's a reason that Ronald Reagan is the president that presided over making MLK Day a federal holiday. They knew what they were doing when they were whitewashing his
I'm not sure about this Seneca Scott person, but he might be very prominent. I just think it's very interesting that the only person even semi-related to like MLK they could get on the show was like MLK's wife, like second cousin. And he's just like, my family, like referring directly to Martin Luther King Jr. I'm like, I don't know about that one, fam. Like, I don't think, like, he doesn't even seem old enough to have been alive when Martin Luther King Jr. was like assassinated.
I don't What happened to Alveda King? That was their go-to for so long. Was she busy? Was she busy on
Martin Luther King? That's what I was thinking. Maybe it's gotten even too unsavory for her. I don't know.
I mean, I don't necessarily see the problem with the statue. I don't think it looks like a giant penis. It just looks like two hands clasping on like, I don't know, a metallic, like part of like a chain link. But ultimately...
I just say it's a reference to like a picture, and they don't show the angle that the picture is actually taken from, so it does look odd. I mean, it's a weird statue kind of from most angles, but I mean, I don't care, and that's that. There's the statue. Enjoy it. Whatever. Sure.
All right, let's take a quick call.
It'd be nice instead of statues is if we actually like implemented some of the war on poverty.
We can't do that.
Yeah.
I mean, this is donated by artists or by donors to make art, lasting art.
We should take their money and give it to people.
What if instead of honoring MLK's memory by building statues of him, we honored his memory by implementing the policies and prescriptions for society that he, had.
I mean, don't be practical.
I was going to say minting NFTs, but that works too.
Is there already not an MLK like
NFTs?
Is there not like a bored ape that's like MLK? Like, I feel like there's like one for every famous person you might have heard of.
I mean, David Guetta might own that one, but
that's the one that
OpenSea does list a Martin Luther King Jr. video NFT animated famous people. So hey, if you want to get in the NFT, the MLK letter NFT project, all sorts of NFT opportunities out there for our civil rights loving people.